A very good evening. Welcome to Biz RoundUp on our television on another weekend. I'm Ashinsani Veerasinghe. Let's have a look at the headlines first. Concerns by the European Union over Sri Lanka's import restrictions is an overreaction presented too early, Central Bank Governor stresses. Central Bank introduces a maximum interest rate on mortgage-backed housing loans obtained by salaried employees. ADB approves $165 million loan to assist SME sector in Sri Lanka with long-term financing to underserved SMEs led by women and tea smallholders. News in detail. The Central Bank Governor, Professor W.D. Lakshman, stresses that the recent joint statement by the EU countries on the concerns over the import restrictions imposed by the government of Sri Lanka is probably an overreaction presented too early. Joining the last monetary policy review of the CBSL conducted in the Zoom platform, CBSL Governor last Thursday added that as per the regulations of the World Trade Organization, governments can take special measures to resolve its balance of payment issues, especially in a global pandemic situation.
Perhaps this statement which was publicized here from the EU countries and the EU organization is probably an overreaction presented too early. At a time we are trying to resolve our balance of payments problem. Even under WTO rules, I think the country is allowed to do certain things which are needed to meet balance of payments problems. And in any case, I believe that this kind of issue can be resolved with adequate discussions among the parties concerned. And I think our external relations authorities are probably taking up this matter for discussion between Sri Lankan authorities and the relevant EU authorities.
We studied the impact of import restrictions on imports from those countries, and it seems that the impact is quite minimal. So as you know, most of the import restrictions are on non-essential imports, including motor vehicles, and also on the imports of particularly agricultural goods that are coming because the government wants to promote domestic production of agricultural goods. So the government has re-emphasized the need to maintain some of these restrictions on non-essential imports, but that does not mean that the imports from the European Union have reduced in the past, and we don't expect that going forward as well.
Furthermore, Director of Economic Research Department of Central Bank, Dr. C. Amarasekara, states that CBSL has decided to maintain the standing deposit facility rate and the standing lending facility rate of the Central Bank at their current levels of 4.5% and 5.5% respectively. Additionally, in respect to the concessional loan schemes proposed by the government in the Budget 2021, the Monetary Board has decided to introduce a maximum interest rate of mortgage-backed housing loans obtained by salaried employees from licensed banks with only 7% per annum for such loans, at least for the first 5 years of the loan tenure.
The decision at the Monetary Board meeting was to maintain the current policy interest rates unchanged at the levels observed now. So the standing deposit facility rate is maintained at 4.5%, standing lending facility rate at 5.5%, and the bank rate at 8.5%. Also, the statutory reserve ratio is maintained at 2%. The additional decisions that were made yesterday was to introduce a maximum interest rate applicable on mortgage-backed housing loans obtained by salaried employees. This scheme is available for salaried employees in the private and public sectors, and also for mortgage-backed housing loans. So the banks can continue to follow their all their prudential norms in providing housing loans to these salaried workers, where the risk to banks will be very low because there will be a continued flow of, there is a low risk of non-performing loans in relation to such loans. At the same time, we have been careful to ensure that this will not create an additional sort of property market bubble, because these are only for mortgage-backed housing loans.
In the meantime, the central bank announced that the CBSL, together with the government, has disbursed 179 billion rupees for the SME sector in the country at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic.
If you look at what the central bank and the government have done so far, I think we have disbursed about 179 billion for the benefits of SME sector. And those are ranging from very small loans to loans up to 25 million. And also, the central bank has announced recently about the enhancing the grace period given for the repayment of those loans. And also, you may have seen the government, the Minister of Finance has signed a loan agreement with ADB for 165 million. I think this is also aimed at, that's about little more than 30 billion rupees. And those money also will be channeled towards revival of SMEs. And then the central bank is also looking at focusing its ongoing lending programs, which are administered through the Regional Development Department, to have better focus on SME sector. So I think the government and the central bank have taken the SME sector very seriously. And I think, so we have met the demand of the SME sector to a great extent. And then with the other arrangements in the pipeline, if there's any gap, those will also be bridged in the coming months. Thank you.
The central bank states that the headline inflation, as measured by the year-on-year change in the National Consumer Price Index, has decreased by 9 decimal points to 5.5% in October 2020 from 6.4% in September 2020. Meanwhile, food inflation decreased to 10.6% in October 2020 from 12.7% in September 2020, whereas non-food inflation increased marginally to 1.5% in October 2020 from 1.4% in September 2020. The change in the NCPI measured on an annual average basis remained unchanged at 6.2% in October 2020. Monthly change of NCPI recorded at 0.1% in October 2020. This was mainly due to increases observed in prices of items in food category such as big onion and rice during October 2020. However, prices of fresh fruits and fresh fish recorded declines during the month. Further, core inflation decreased to 4.5% in October 2020 from 4.8% in September 2020, while annual average core inflation decreased marginally to 4.2% in October 2020 from 4.3% in September 2020. Stay tuned for more news after this short break. Welcome back after the break. International ratings agency Moody's stresses that despite the growth-oriented focus of Budget 2021, it is unlikely to boost output increase, public revenue or ease debt sustainability. Moody's warns that it will instead increase spending, adding to fiscal pressures, and was a credit negative. Releasing a report, Moody's said that the budget presented on 17th of this month by Prime Minister and the Finance Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa calls for 3.6 trillion rupees in expenditure, a 26% increase from its estimate for 2020. Moreover, Moody's said it expects the government to face challenges in rationalizing government spending and delivering fiscal consolidation post-coronavirus, as a large interest bill, rigid public sector wages and subsidies and transfers keep recurring government spending elevated. The rating agency also warns that the economic boost from the budget will be limited, and it explains that the budget includes large allocations for domestically financed infrastructure development, incentives for domestic production, support for small and medium-sized enterprises, and upgrading Sri Lanka's rural road networks, to which the largest portion of public investment spending has been allocated. On the revenue side, Moody notes that the budgeted 28% increase in government revenue compared to 2020, largely stemming from robust growth in taxes on goods and services and external trade, is unlikely to be achieved. Moreover, it shows that a bleaker outlook for fiscal consolidation is likely to continue to challenge the government's ability to raise financing
for upcoming debt obligations and narrow annual borrowing needs, which in 2021 externally amount to approximately $4 billion. Elevated repayment risks will continue to raise pressure on the government's external and liquidity position as the recovery in major sources of foreign exchange earnings is likely to be slow, keeping the country's international reserves position thin, the report added.
The Asian Development Bank has approved a $165 million loan to Sri Lanka to provide instant financing assistance for small and medium enterprises which have been brutally affected by the coronavirus pandemic, and long-term financing to underserved SMEs, including businesses led by women and tea smallholders. The statement says that the financial support is critical for SMEs to revive their businesses after the pandemic, which account for over 45% of total employment and 52% of gross domestic product of Sri Lanka. Thus, new financing will build on the ongoing small and medium-sized enterprises line of credit project, which ADB approved in 2016 to strengthen SMEs' access to finance, and the project is co-financed with a grant from the G20-led Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative since 2018 to promote women entrepreneurship. The new loan will introduce a new credit line co-financed with a $1.25 million grant from the Japan Fund for Poverty Reduction to promote capital investment by tea smallholders. A supplemental $1.75 million technical assistance grant from JFPR will build tea smallholders' financial literacy and capacity to access financial services and develop policies to promote value chain development for the Sri Lankan tea industry to strengthen its international competitiveness. ADB has approved a $20 billion expanded assistance package in April to support its developing members' COVID-19 response. Former Minister of Telecommunication, Digital Infrastructure and Samagi Janabalawegaya parliamentarian Harin Fernando requests the government to appoint a digital task force in the country, claiming that the country should move ahead with the digital revolution.
There are two positives I see with President's Act of wanting to keep the ICTA, SL Cert and the TRC under him. But it also brings me a few doubts, whereas how can the TRC, being the regulator, and the telecommunication industry as the operator, both be under one person? A Google Loon කියන project එක මං කෙලින්ම විවෘතව කියනවා ඒක කඩා කප්පල් කරේ එවකට හිටපු ජනාධිපතිවරයා. TRC ගේ යටතේ තිබුණේ Google Loon project එක ලෝකේ තියෙනම හොඳම 100 best 100 innovations වලින් පළවෙනි 10 තියෙන එක. ඒ Google Loon එකට ලංකා රජයේ අණ්ඩුවෙන් 7-5ක් ගෙව්වේ නෑ කරුවා තානායකතුමනි. The fourth industrial revolution revolves around information communication technology ICT. ජනාධිපතිතුමා බිලියන 15ක් TRC යට වෙන් කරලා දෙනවා 4G දෙන්න. හැබැයි අර බැලුමේ වැඩේ කරා නම් ඔය නිකන් hina වුණාට බැලුම වැඩේ කරා නම් හැම ලංකාවේ කිසිම තැනක white space එකක් නැතුව 4G තාක්ෂණය දෙන්න තිබුණා. හැබැයි ඒකට හිටපු ජනාධිපතිවරයා එයාගේ මල්ලිව සභාපති කරලා ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම් එකේ මාව නාම මාත්‍ර ඇමති කරලා අන්තිමට ඒ වැඩ කටයුත්ත කරගෙන යන්නට කිසිම අවස්ථාවක් දුන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් අද කෙන්යාවේ ඒ ව්‍යාපෘතිය ලංකාවෙන් ගලවලා ගිහලා කෙන්යාවට දීලා මුළු කෙන්යාවම 4G තාක්ෂණය දිනනවා. අද බලන්නේ කොච්චර වටිනවද මේ වෙලාවේ ළමයි Zoom එකෙන් පන්ති කාමරවල කන්නේ. ඒවන් ජනාධිපතිතුමාගෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා. ඩිජිටල් ටාස්ක් ෆෝස් එකක් හදන්න. ඒකට අපි ආණ්ඩුව අපිට තනතුරු ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒකට ගන්න හොඳ විද්වත් කට්ටිය ගන්න. දේශපාලනයකට ගන්න ඕන ආවරණයට විපක්ෂ මිනිසුත් ගන්න දන්න කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා නම් ඒක ගැන.
In the meantime, Minister of Industries Vimal Weerawansa responded to the concerns brought by former Minister of Telecommunication, Digital Infrastructure Harin Fernando. Weerawansa also touched key issues related to the finance allocation in the budget 2021.
මේ වන විටත් අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩල කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකා කීපයක්ම අනුමත කරලා තියෙනවා මේ රටේ ඩිජිටල් කරණයට අදාළ ඉතාම වැදගත් පියවර රැසකට. මේ අයවැයට පෙර ඒකට ඕන කරන මූලික පදනම දාන්න, ඒකට ඕන කරන මූලික අඩිතාලම දාන්න අවශ්‍ය කරන බොහෝ පියවර අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩල පත්‍රිකා වලින් අරගෙන තිබෙනවා. අපි සන්තෝෂ වෙනවා හරින් ප්‍රනාන්දු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා මොකද ඩිජිටල් කරණයට අදාළව කාර්යසාධන බලකාය අපි හිටවන්න කියලා වැදගත් යෝජනාවක් කළා. ඒ යෝජනාව කිරීම පිළිබඳව මම එතුමාට ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා. මොකද එවැනි විපක්ෂයේ මන්ත්‍රීතුමන්ලගේ එවැනි සාධනීය අදහස් තියෙනවා නම් ඒවත් උකහාගෙන මේ රටේ ඒ පොදු අභිවෘද්ධිය වෙනුවෙන් කටයුතු කිරීම වැදගත් කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරන නිසා සමහරු මතයක් හදාගෙන යනවා මේ ආරක්ෂක අමාත්‍යාංශයට ඉතා විශාල මුදලක් මේ අයවැයෙන් වෙන් කරලයි කියලා. මම හොයලා බැලුවා ජනාධිපති ලේකම් කාර්යාලයට ගත්තොත් 2019ට සාපේක්ෂව 400 million කට වඩා අඩුවෙන් තමයි මුදල් වෙන් කරලා තිබෙන්නේ. 2019 2020 2021 2022 2023 2024 2025 2026 2027 2028 2029 2030 2031 2032 2033 2034 2035 2036 2037 2038 2039 2040 2041 2042 2043 2044 2045 2046 2047 2048 2049 2050 2051 2052 2053 2054 2055 2056 2057 2058 2059 2060 2061 2062 2063 2064 2065 2066 2067 2068 2069 2070 2071 2072 2073 2074 2075 2076 2077 2078 2079 2080 2081 2082 2083 2084 2085 2086 2087 2088 2089 2090 2091 2092 2093 2094 2095 2096 2097 2098 2099 2000 2001 2002 2003 2004 2005 2006 2007 2008 2009 2010 2011 2012 2013 2014 2015 2016 2017 2018 2019 2020 2021 2022 2023 2024 2025 2026 2027 2028 2029 2030 2031 2032 2033 2034
Head of Research of First Capital Holdings, Dimantha Matthew, will now bring forward the detailed analysis of the trading of the Colombo Stock Exchange for the past 5 days.
After a bit of a slow start, we saw a bit of a improvement in the market conditions as retail activity and market activity overall improved. So with it, we saw turnover levels also rising from a slow start at the start of the week towards to above 2 billion level of turnover. So we saw turnover levels reaching 2 billion on Wednesday and then slightly lower than 2 billion, but around the 2 billion mark. So that's a sizable improvement from the start of the week. Activity seems to have recovered, and with it, we saw the market momentum also recovering. So the SPI improved during the week, except the slight slowdown on the last couple of days. In addition to that, what we are seeing is more retail activity compared to the last couple of weeks, and there seems to be further interest in by high net worth and institutional participation as well coming in. On the foreign front, actually it was a mixed reaction. We saw 1 day of net foreign inflow, that's on Tuesday, and after that it was again mixed with the low and high levels of net foreign outflows.
Moreover, Head of First Capital Holdings, Dimantha Matthew, put forward the forecast for the coming week.
Looking at the upcoming week, we feel that there could be a bit of positivity in the market, and we saw a bit of retail activity also picking up during last week. So there could be buying interest coming back into the market. However, we feel that the shift into blue chip counters from the retail favorite counters is likely to continue at a higher level in the coming days, and with that investors should be focused more on accumulating blue chip counters and converting their counters into more fundamental blue chip counters with that momentum. Also, it is needed to know that we are going into the month of December, and there could be a likely slowdown because of the festive season. And with that, overall activity may dip. However, buying interest can be retained because of the lower interest rate environment and the strong retail activity levels that are continuing. We are likely to see more local participation as usual, with high net worth and institutional participation getting involved. Foreign activity again is likely to lie low, and especially in the month of December, foreign activity tends to significantly reduce as well. So we can expect that this year as well.
With that, we are winding up news for the week. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Until then, take care. Good night.